So, record-breaking heat waves and an England-wide drought have become huge issues for Britain's security. Many are calling for Britain to declare the situation a national emergency. Joining me now is Paul Behrens, who's a professor in environmental change at the University of Oxford. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. So the Prime Minister, we're told, will today chair an emergency meeting, a COBRA meeting, to look at the impact of the heat wave. Is that something that you welcome? I mean, should he have done it before?
Absolutely. I mean, I would argue that given the level of the heat wave, given the impacts across the country, it could have happened before. We're seeing all the lights flashing red for farming at the moment. We see impacts on cereals, the earliest harvest in 20 years. We see yields down. We see horticulture, which is the fresh fruit and veg that we produce, struggling with the lack of water. And we see big impacts on farmers, as the livestock farmers, as the grass hasn't grown for months now. So we are seeing all of these different systems really struggling.
Well, yes, and so many different factors that heat waves throw up, you know, wildfires, strain on the NHS, water shortages. But do you think that food security should be the top priority?
I think it should be one of the priorities, and it should be one of the priorities going forwards. To some extent, we can respond to some of these other impacts in a shorter scale, trying to control wildfires, etc. But we're storing up a lot of problems in our food system for the future. When we think about how dry the soils are now, farmers are looking to plant in the coming weeks of some crops, and those plants can't go in. We're seeing livestock farmers who are taking their winter stores of food that they would be feeding the animals in the winter, and they won't have that during the winter now because they're feeding to the animals now. So we're storing up a lot of problems coming forwards.
And what's the more immediate issues? So which crops are most likely to be affected by this consistently hot weather?
Well, we've seen in the cereals, we've seen impacts on wheat. We've seen the lowest per hectare yields that we've seen on record. It's looking to be one of the worst that we've had. We're seeing big impacts in terms of the fresh produce. And of course, you know, we really need that fresh produce for our vitamins, for our nutrients. And that's water's not available. We're also seeing impacts on livestock. So as I said before, you know, we're seeing this issue with the grass. But of course, you know, we struggle in the heat. But also animals struggle in the heat. And the productivity is way down. We lost something like 60 million pints during June compared to the previous year due to that heat.
So obviously a horribly stressful time for farmers, and they're going to be financially really concerned as well. But tell us a little bit about what it means for the consumer too. Does this mean a shortage of products? Does it mean more imports? Does it mean higher prices?
I mean, it'll be a bit of a mix. Mostly higher prices, smaller products. So expect to see smaller potatoes, smaller veg on the shelves. And I think we're storing up quite a large inflation over the next 18 months as all of this rolls through the system. Because although we've also got these climate impacts, on top of that, we've got the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which a lot of fertilizers come, and fertilizer prices are up. We've got interruptions in Ukraine in terms of the grain coming out of there. And we've also got the El Nino building as well, which is this other sort of climate signal that we get, which can cause further strain. But the most important thing to remember is that this is not a new normal. I mean, going forwards, this will be the new abnormal. Year on year will get harder and harder. And that's why we need to get ahead of it. And we do have a lot of the solutions that we need.
And they are?
So we need a great food transformation. So this means not thinking just about farming, but thinking about what we're eating too, to produce food that is healthy and nutritious for us and that's available for us. So this means eating more plants. This is not just scientists that are saying this. This is actually in the Joint Intelligence Committee report out earlier this year on ecosystem collapse that the government published. And this says that we will need to shift towards plants because currently we use around 85% of our agricultural land for livestock and animal agriculture. And we don't have that land going forwards because it converts those inputs inefficiently. We need to reduce our waste. So reduce how much we're wasting in our houses and along our supply chains. We need to improve our productivity, so improve the production process. So this would be things like intercropping and multi-cropping, where we plant multiple crops together. And that diversity really helps with the resilience against climate change. And then finally, we need to think about things on a community level. So bring in community food associations, think about what's happening locally so that we can actually make sure that everybody has what they need during these periods.
I mean, it's an awful lot to take on board if you're a farmer and if you're a farmer who's for generations has been producing meat, or crops that are really suffering in hot weather. I mean, what would your advice be to them? Because it would be a huge turnaround for them to completely reformulate their farming experience.
Yeah, I mean, so to some extent, this is already happening. One way or another, it's being reformulated because of the climate impacts that people are feeling. We do have solutions out there. We have things like the National Food Strategy that came out a few years ago, which was very good about giving different options. We've got the Good Food Bill, which is currently being considered at the moment, and that would also offer a lot of support. It's really about supporting farmers through these transitions and helping farmers. And to some extent, we're doing it, but we need to do it more wisely and in a larger way to encourage farmers to bring nature back on the farm, to be producing the foods that we know are healthier for us. Because the most amazing thing about this is that if we make this transition, it will be so much better for us. And estimates suggest we could be saving billions of pounds for the NHS every year.
So how gloomy do you feel this morning? I mean, obviously the message is a pretty stark one. This summer has been a difficult experience for farmers, but the suggestion is obviously with climate change we're going to get more and more summers like this. So what's a message of hope that you can give people?
Yeah, so it's really it's a real struggle working on this year after year, and seeing these issues not really being taken seriously to the level they need to be taken. Things like phasing out fossil fuels faster, things like accelerating our adaptation plans, and one of the things that I do take from this period, though, is that there is more interest, that there is more engagement, and we know that we underestimate one another. The science is crystal clear on this, that we underestimate how much other people want change. So the support for environmental action across the country is much higher than many people think. And I work in this area, and I'm often underestimating ourselves. So one of the things we can do is we can go out and watch the People's Emergency Briefing, which is a screening of films up and down the country. We can get involved, we can talk to one another about the solutions, and we can start implementing some of the things that we know that we need.
OK, well, Paul Bowen, it's really interesting to get your take on events and on the heat wave and its impacts. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.